I'm recording.
I'm also recording.
Hello, wingers.
Hey,
Welcome,
wingers.
welcome to Wingin at the West Wing Podcast. My name is Andrea.
And I'm Sally.
I just had a lot of brown sugar. And you're listening to our recap of the two Bartlets. Dun dun
Yes.
dun.
Dun dun dun, indeed.
Should we sing?
Yeah.
Start us off, Sal.
All right. Dun,
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 dun, dun, dun, Sally likes to go at her own tempo, so that way I have a mini panic attack every time thinking I'm going to have to put the actual tempo underneath this, and it won't match up even close. Every time I have a mini panic attack, and she won't go faster. It's okay.
Oh, it's so fun, though.
It's like a trampoline of fun, musically.
Gotta keep you guys on your toes.
Yep. All right. Well, shall we regale everyone with a TikTokery? A little recap of what happens.
We should.
Cool.
So two Bartlets this episode. There are a few things going on. One of them is that President Bartlett is flying to Iowa to give a little speech. The Iowa caucus is going on. He's unopposed, but he's just going there to be like, hey, what's up? Thanks for getting me elected, etc. And so we're on Air Force One doing that a little bit. There's that going on. There is a protest in Puerto Rico. There is a fleet of ships, I believe, that needs to get certified to go be deployed in the Indian Ocean. In order to do that, they have to fire on this test range, and there are protesters in the test range, so they can't fire where they're supposed to fire. Josh happens to know the leader of the protests, and so there's a whole dilemma. Billy, there's a whole dilemma about that, and they need Josh to talk to him, etc. Meanwhile, Josh is also courting Amy. There's some stuff going on with Amy's other significant other, and so that's going on. Tahiti, etc. And Donna has jury duty, and CJ has some stuff going on with her dad. I think that's mostly it. And we're introduced to our new opponent, I guess, sort of. Not really introduced, but mentioned. We have Richie is brought up and mentioned in this episode.
Yeah, and Toby's basically dealing with Bartlett on the whole idea of the two Bartlets, which we'll get to.
Yep.
That's pretty much
some, drama there.
Whew, oh man, it's a heavy hitter.
Yes, it is indeed.
I suppose we could just start at the top of the episode.
Sure.
We could start there. It's about 5:14 in the morning.
Too early.
Amy Gardner comes over, right? She comes over to Josh's apartment, and Josh answers the door and says, I thought you were breakfast, which I don't think any of that makes sense, because he clearly didn't really think she was breakfast, because breakfast doesn't arrive magically, nor does it come at 5:14 in the morning.
Well, also, he might have it set up to have breakfast delivered on weekday mornings.
Do you really think he's got breakfast delivery service?
I think he really might. I don't see Josh making himself breakfast. And that's like a thing. I mean, in big cities, you obviously can get food pretty much anytime, anywhere. And I'm sure Washington's no different. So I think he's got his routine of make my coffee, get my breakfast kind of thing.
I feel like he would just stop somewhere on the way. They don't have Seamless back then. I don't know. I don't think anything is open at 5 a.m., nor should anything be open at 5 a.m.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's a whole different thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... I mean, we think 5 a.m. is early, but think about all the news people. That's the first thing they do is they turn on the news. Like, you have to really want to be on the news to get up at, like, 3:30 or 4 in the morning.
You have an entirely different schedule.
Oof.
My question is, why is Amy... Well, I mean, we find out why, but she's coming over to Josh's apartment, and she supposedly has a significant other, but then I guess she doesn't. I just answered my own question. So we find out while Amy's there that she has broken up with this significant other. But they reference that they have spent 6 nights together while she's dating this dude?
Yeah. Like, what?
That's
I mean, we don't know what all happened. But
well, we get a pretty good taste of it when Josh talks about it to Leo. I think we can infer.
We can infer things. But yeah, it's not a good setup. And can we just say, you don't start talking on the phone without having the person identify who's on the other end?
Never. Have you never seen a sitcom? No.
Has he never? Golly. Josh was just telling Leo all the intimate details with Amy and Margaret standing there.
Hilarious. So that's one of the times that I have genuinely, I mean, I laughed out loud. I burst out laughing when they zoom out of the phone and Leo's just sitting there taking notes, listening to Josh talk. That was so well done. It was hilarious. I just love it
because Leo's just like, Josh, I'm just going to stop you right there.
Oh, so funny.
There was just so much talking for early in the morning. I mean, Ryan Gosling could show up at my door at 5:15 and I would still maybe not want to carry on full conversations. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of love in my heart to actually have conversations that early. So if that happens,
and
you know,
Leo
it's real.
and Margaret are already at work. Like, they're fully dressed in the office, fully functioning, you know? So I Googled after that what time White House workers get to the office, but I couldn't find anything really good.
You couldn't? I'll have to ask our inside source. I mean, if it was like 6 something, I would believe it more, but...
Yeah, 5 a.m. to already be there working at 5 a.m. I don't know, maybe so. The country's got to run.
I mean, I would just have a ponytail every day. But you can't.
I just wonder if they have like shifts or I don't know. Anyway.
Also, Amy keeps going, how do you like them apples? Like over and over and over.
Yeah, I didn't love that.
Sally doesn't like those apples.
Are we supposed to assume that Josh is reusing his coffee filter?
Yes.
Maybe I misunderstood.
He pulled a George
Costanza.
Costanza.
A reusable one, but ew.
Yeah, no, definitely
Josh, come on. Just add some coffee to your breakfast order, man.
He doesn't really have one. He also called her Ophelia, so that's a fun little Shakespeare Hamlet reference.
Yeah, because she calls him Hamlet first.
Oh, she does? Okay. I was wondering
yeah, she calls him Hamlet, and then he says Ophelia.
He's kind of like Hamlet, I suppose. Okay, so there's the whole early morning thing. I guess we could talk more about Josh and his friend, Billy, the protesters. Do you have thoughts on the protests?
I really love this storyline because I love Josh being so against it, and Leo is just like... like the second time they talk about it, Josh really, really goes off on this dude that I don't know who the other guy was, but in the room. So later, I'm skipping ahead, but later in the storyline, he goes off on the other guy in the room that's telling him, hey, we'll need you again in a couple hours. And he's like, oh, I'm not, he's basically like, I'm not doing it. Like, you're going to have to arrest him or shoot him or whatever. And Leo just says, we'll need you back here in a few hours. And Josh is like, thanks. And so I really, really like this storyline. I like the dynamic between Josh. I like the sort of tug of war of like, he shouldn't have to do this, but like, yeah, he should. It's his job, like blah, blah, blah. But it just gets resolved like in a snap. It's like he tells Sam, well, we came to an agreement. There was no like, you know?
Yeah, they didn't really take it to that place. I mean, at the beginning, Josh was like, this is a crappy thing to do to friendship. Yeah. But he's like, sorry, we're at DEFCON 5. So you're like, well.
Yeah. So like he has to do it, which is fine. I would have liked more of it. I would have liked, I don't know. I just would have liked to see a more intense resolution maybe, as opposed to just like, it's just like a throwaway line.
Well, yeah, so, true.
I just thought it was that good, and I liked it.
Well, he had other stuff going on, so I felt like that he would have had like the whole episode had he.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I just really enjoyed that intensity between Leo and Josh, and I wish that it had sort of come to a head. But I guess it was just like, well, I had to do what I had to do. I don't know. I don't know.
There were a lot of funny little things. We definitely need to talk about two things when they're on Air Force One, which I might just have to put Air Force One underneath this podcast because any excuse to put Nellie in a podcast, I just go for it. But where CJ's talking about the butter cow and the butter Last Supper that has butter on the table. Has anybody seen this? Is this a real thing somewhere?
Oh, that I don't know.
I mean, that would be hilarious.
Pretty crazy.
And then she also says that He's the Dada of Dadaism. Get it? Like, the father of Dadaism. That is, like, the best kind of wit I've ever heard. Where else would you get that?
It's the best, but it's also so cheesy because I love Toby's reaction. Cheesy? It's like, there's nothing you can do. Oh, God. He's like, you see that joke coming and all you can do is stand there. And I'm on Toby's side of that.
I absolutely love that line. I love the Dada of Dadaism. I think it's amazing. Yes, Toby, also amazing. I suppose, also, this is reason number, 578 of why I couldn't work at the White House, but having to work on a plane, I don't care if it's Air Force One or Air Force anything, if there's turbulence enough where the lights are flickering, I'm gonna not be thinking about work. I mean, I'm not a good flyer, but that's a little intense. Just saying. Yeah.
I love flying, so I'd be like, yeah, let's just do a few more laps in Air Force One. Be great.
But the lights are flickering. I wonder if they have parachutes, because they don't have parachutes on regular airplanes. And
I'm sure they have some sort of backup for the president.
Or do they just have another airplane that's nearby to? They have to have parachutes.
I think they probably do. But I mean, the lights flickering. That wouldn't be that. I mean, it's so rare to actually have a plane crash. I know that's not. I mean, there's just a lot of turbulence all the time, but planes don't just crash.
The lights also don't just flicker. I'm just saying. I would have a tough time working on there. Okay. Anyway, so then I guess we could talk about the main thing with Toby or we could talk about Sam. And the NASA guy.
Oh, yeah, that was really great. At first, I was like, Sam's in this episode? Yes, that was... I mean, it was great, but it was also just it's just throwing Sam a bone. I felt like it was such a random storyline to have in there.
Eliminating the penny. And they just like to bring back Bob, the NASA guy. I wonder what Bob's reaction was when he read the script. Why? Why is this coming back? Why?
It was it was funny, though.
The first time.
The best part was the end when he's talking to Toby and Toby's like, don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. Just go back to work. Just full on egging Sam on. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. It was just funny because Bob, the NASA guy, the real nerdy guy, he was concerned that there might be UFOs or alien bodies or something that they're hiding at Fort Knox. And he said, a friend brought it to my attention. And Sam said, a human friend? Or... and I have to look it up. I should have looked this up earlier. But I thought that Sam said something like, this is Dungeons and Dragons camp all over again. I'll have to confirm that. But it was just
he did. Line. He said, this is Dungeons and Dragons camp all over again. Because I wrote down, really? Did Sam go to Dungeons and Dragons camp?
Okay, good. It wasn't just me. But yeah, he seems too old for that. I don't know, it felt out of date.
Yeah, would that have been a thing when I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it was around when he was younger. But it was
maybe it
funny line.
Was before, maybe it was a game before it was it was I'm Wikipediaing it right now. It's a tabletop role-playing game. So it was a tabletop game first. It was published in 1974.
Oh, okay.
And so then it just moved online.
Oh my gosh. This is Dungeons and Dragons camp all over again.
So I guess, did Sam just go to Dungeons and Dragons camp against his will, and that's why he felt out of place? I don't know. It
was also strange because then he gets called out of that meeting to talk to Josh, and Josh says, Josh asks Sam, how's it going in there? What's going on? And then he's like, well, this guy basically inherited the family business. And Sam's being all empathetic. And then as soon as he answers, he just says that one line. And Josh is like, oh, hey, I gotta go buy Tahitian stuff. Josh is the one who asked him about it. And then as soon as he starts talking, he's like, oh, I'm too busy.
I agree. I noticed that too. And I was just like, alrighty then. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a little odd. It was an odd interaction in general.
Also a little bit odd that Donna doesn't want to go to... Well, obviously she doesn't want to go to jury duty. Nobody really wants to go to jury duty out, I don't think. But she said that she doesn't want to go because she's kind of seeing someone. Okay. First of all, I'm supposing she's just saying that trying to make him jealous because really isn't jury duty during the day? Right?
It is, but I think she was saying it for different reasons. I
What
can't
do you mean?
remember. I can't remember why, but I don't remember that being like I'm kind of seeing someone that I'll let me look it up. We'll keep going.
Well, yeah, it just felt strange to me because she wouldn't be seeing someone during the day. She would be at work during the day. So I don't see how going to jury duty would get in the way of that, or why she would even need to
Yeah,
mention
that's
that she was
true.
seeing someone.
He said it looks like justice is finally in your hands, and she said I don't want it in my hands right now. I'm kind of seeing somebody.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
So
I
I
don't see
guess
her
you.
saying it just to make him jealous. I think she just wanted him to be him to be aware of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying it had no bearing on her daytime plans, which is when
Right.
jury
Yeah.
duty happens.
Yes, I agree with that.
It was funny though, because Josh comes in that morning after Margaret overheard the whole telephone call to Leo with Josh, and Josh is like, I'm a little tired this morning, and Donna's like, from all the lovemaking?
Yeah.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah, that was really funny. There was not an awkward thing, but when Amy shows up at the end, which I guess we can talk about too, when Amy shows up at the end, she says, Donna told me to come over. And I was like, Josh, you couldn't, like, call him that just felt a little weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you got a message from her like, "Hey, go to Josh's house." I mean, if it was like
Yeah.
if he was
Well,
surprising her somewhere else, like not a third party, but like a neutral place where it could have looked under the guise of business, it would make sense for Donna to call.
right. But it didn't there, so that was weird. But I will say, I love everything about the Tahitian scene.
Yes.
Yeah, I love everything about it. Everything.
Oh, you love everything about it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's surprising because he was all like fishy, a little uncomfortable once he realizes that she is single again and this could actually happen. He gets all like afraid, and Sam has to tell him like, "Hey, don't do this. I'm just like you, and don't push her away and think of her differently now that this is a real thing." And
Yeah.
then he like swings the pendulum in the other direction and decides, you know what? I'm not going to be afraid of commitment. I'm going to overcommit and say, "Hey, we're going to go on a trip."
Yep.
And then he has to cancel the trip, and
Yeah.
Leo's like, "Don't cancel the trip because this is why I live in a hotel and my wife lives in my house."
Do you think he really had to cancel the trip?
Well, he didn't have to.
I'm kind of
He
torn on it because like he does tell her like, "Hey, I think he's genuine when he says like my friend's involved in this. I don't have to stay, but I want to stay." I think that is genuine when he's telling her that.
I think so too. However, I think it was good that he did that instead of like lying to her, because he could have just said like, "Hey, no, like Leo really wants me at this meeting," even though
Right,
Leo.
and
That's kind of what I thought was going to happen.
right, and that's what makes me think that he is being genuine and did feel like he needed to cancel it, and it's not just like him backing out. Do you know what I mean? Like
Sure, yeah.
because if he had said, "Yeah, Leo's making me stay," then we would have known. No, he's not.
That it was a
You're
commitment
lying.
thing.
You're just trying to
Yeah.
get out of it. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's good that he's honest with her, and then he does the Tahiti thing, but he does get mad at her, like just like Sam says.
Yeah. That phone conversation went really south really quickly.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
Ugh.
But the
Ugh.
Tahiti thing was very sweet. It was just cute. They had great chemistry. It's just a great scene. It's just a great
The
scene
only
all
thing
the way
I
around.
did not like about that scene was that song, Red, Red Wine, I think is perhaps my most loathed song I've ever heard.
Is it really?
Oh, it is. I don't think there's anything good about it. I just can't stand that song when I like walk into a Chili's or something and I hear it.
Oh
I'm like,
gosh.
that's exactly where you would hear it, by the way. So, no, I mean, I love chips and queso. I'm not hating on Chili's. I'm just saying that, like, that song is, you can't get away from it. It's been, I don't know how many years, but I hate it.
Yep. Agreed.
If anybody's with me, holler back. But, so, let's also talk about let's just talk about Toby. The Toby and the Bartlett, because so uncomfortable. The whole ending. I mean,
yes.
Oh, so much cringeworthy. It's like a train wreck, and you can't tear your eyes away. So
yeah, I agree.
So basically, like we said, Bartlett is traveling to Iowa. He's speaking out of college, and Richie had just come out on the side against affirmative action, and they're trying, right? He's against affirmative action. So they're trying, and Bartlett didn't want to campaign that day. He just didn't want to fight. So he and Toby already had like a conversation on Air Force One before he went to this press conference. And he's like, I just don't want to deal with it today. So he wanted to write something that was non-specific and not quotable, which is never really a good thing to do. And he finally gets the question, like, is he for it or against it? And he just says, like, we've eliminated discrimination from our laws. Now we need to discriminate from or eliminate discrimination from our hearts and minds. Like, just something just a platitude. That's very, like, okay, whatever. And then he finally gets the question, and he does that. And so, of course, Toby is just up in arms about it, that he got the question and completely just, I don't know. I wouldn't say fumbled it, but that he's just not being, he's being the, what he said, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Uncle Fluffy.
Uncle Fluffy, yeah. He's mad about Uncle Fluffy. Although I wouldn't call the rough, or the other Bartlett Dr. Jekyll.
No, I wouldn't either.
Unfair.
Yeah,
we like the other Bartlett. Like, yeah.
Nobel laureate.
Oh, well.
But then later Toby comes back, and he's, obviously very upset about this ideologically, but the lengths that he goes to are completely out of bounds.
Yeah, they really are. And obviously I've had issues with Toby with this before, and I've referenced this scene before, but it's a weird scene for me, because this conversation would have been completely different if it were the president and Leo, because Leo still would have been out of bounds slightly, but Leo is his friend. Like, Leo is his, I mean, he's his lieutenant, he's his second in command. Like, he is, I mean, he's not technically, you know what I mean? He's his man. He's his right-hand man. Like, he is his go-to. So Leo having this conversation would have been a totally different scene. And I know why, because then it would have been a totally different scene. That's not the scene that Sorkin wanted, and I get that. But it's really cringeworthy for me. I mean, because he just keeps going.
He keeps going. Yeah. Like he just doesn't.
Right. And
he doesn't heed any of the stops.
Exactly. They are in the Oval Office. He is talking to the president, and he completely forgets that. And I get the point he's trying to make, and I agree with it. Like, we know what Toby's saying. We don't want the president to be afraid to be as smart as he is and all that stuff. Like, what Toby's saying isn't wrong, but he's just saying it wrongly, and he is saying it in the wrong place and at the wrong time. Well, I don't know that it would ever be right for him to say that, any of it, to President Bartlett.
Never. And unless, Bartlett was confiding in him or something about his father, and he was, responding in a gentle way, but he is pushing this idea that, your father, he said your father did not like you, and that's why he hit you. That's why people hit each other. And
also, Toby has no idea. Toby doesn't know President Bartlett's dad or Toby wasn't there. What an assumptuous thing to do. Maybe he just hit him because he was a terrible person.
Yeah.
It's just, and like you said, it would be different if this would be a different scenario if President Bartlett had invited Toby to the residence, and they were having a nightcap, and President Bartlett was saying, Toby, my dad never liked me much. It would be different if it was President Bartlett explaining to Toby why he can be so reserved.
Mm-hmm.
But the way, it is cringeworthy. Ugh. But it's so in line with Toby's character.
It is. It just still felt just way over the line. It'd be one thing if he, makes a case for something, him just bringing this up would have been oh yeah, that's something that Toby would do. But
Right.
just the way that it all went down was just so painful to watch. Ugh.
It was very painful, yeah. I agree.
And obviously it sets up the next couple episodes to kind of put the ball back into Bartlet's court, because this obviously affects him very deeply.
Right.
So maybe this is just the way that Sorkin, like, tosses the ball around and says, okay, well, now that this big thing happened emotionally, now it's going to toss the ball over here to Bartlet.
Yeah, there's definitely a purpose for it. Like, I think the scene does exactly what it's supposed to do. Like, I think we're supposed to feel so cringeworthy. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're supposed to be like, Toby, stop, but, like, at the same time, we're getting all this good emotional stuff, storyline. So, I don't know.
I will say about the, something else, with the CJ and the affirmative action thing and her father, I was a little, like, it felt a little disjointed to me. Did it feel disjointed to you?
In what way?
Like, at the end, at the beginning of the episode, she explains why she's not, like, the best Democrat to talk to you about this because of her dad's experience in the education system. But then, like, later at the end of the episode, she's talking about the affirmative action thing with Toby in her office. And then she just, like, quickly turns talking about her father again, saying that he's sick, and she starts crying. And I just didn't... She said that, like, if he had lived the life that he was supposed to live, or had he had the opportunity to, she was kind of going to allude to the fact that his life was negatively affected by affirmative action. That's what it seemed like to me. And it just felt like a really far connection. I don't know. Like, I think she was genuinely upset about her dad, but, like, it didn't quite connect for me. Maybe it did for other people.
I think it's because, like, and whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I think she thinks that if he had been superintendent, or if he'd been all these things, that he would have been pushed, and he would have been, you know, intellectually stimulated, and he would have led a different life just in his head, and that maybe his mind wouldn't be going now if he hadn't been stuck at this job that was so far below him.
Yeah, like, that felt really far-reaching to me. I mean, I felt bad for CJ and her dad, but I just didn't feel like it connected organically.
I kind of think it's far-reaching, like, on purpose. That, like, I think, yeah. I mean, I think she would be upset about affirmative action regardless of how her dad turned out in general, because she had watched that her whole life, and she was frustrated he wasn't promoted. And I think that she would be against it. And that, like, I think that part of the storyline, like the beginning conversation, I think that holds up all on its own.
Made more sense. Yeah.
Right. So I do think the end is reaching, but I almost think it's a little reaching on purpose, because that's what you do when you're in that situation. Like, it doesn't make sense. She's sort of grieving about it, and this is something to, like, blame it on. So I think I agree. I don't know. I kind of agree. I think she just wishes... She's sad that this is how his life has turned out, and she wishes there would have been more for him. And I think she thinks he's a brilliant man, and is sad that he never got to realize that potential, and maybe things would be different. I don't know. Yeah.
I do like when Toby's in her office basically anytime, because they have more of that friend relationship. As soon as somebody else walks in, she can hide all those feelings away in her very, press secretary sort of manner. And then, Sam comes in, he's talking about, hey, you guys, like, there might be UFOs, and have you ever been down to the bullion depository, and blah, blah, blah. And, you just kind of see her change her facade.
Yeah.
Like a pro. So.
Yeah.
That I did appreciate.
I like when they get back or when they are walking in and they're talking about affirmative action still, and CJ's like, we're just going to have to agree to disagree. And Toby's like, I don't like doing that.
Yeah, that's funny. True.
Yeah.
That's Toby in a nutshell, really.
Also, just in general, all the awards for Alice and Janney in this episode, because, like, in the beginning when she's talking on the phone to her dad, and at the end when she's tearing up about it to Toby, the whole storyline and her delivery of it is Yeah. She's comedic. She's dramatic. This is the perfect episode for her. I mean, there are so many perfect episodes for her, but gosh, she's good.
Oh,
she's so good.
Well, then maybe, it'd be hard to give Toby the MVP on this one.
Oh, yeah. Allison Janney's my MVP. Not CJ, but Allison Janney. Just an incredible performance from her for me.
I would agree with
for
that.
me, specifically.
Yes, Allison, just call us
Thanks
to collect on your MVP win, and we will get together and give it to you in person. It will be made of gold and chocolate, probably.
It'll be worth it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much the two Bartlets in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. If you have thoughts or feelings on these, you can send them to us at TheWestWingPodcast@gmail.com. We love reading what you have to say. You can also leave a review on iTunes. If you've made it this far, then hopefully you would put a favorable one. And if you haven't, that's a lot of hatred and time to spend. So feel free to give us stars 1 through 5. We like seeing them. It helps us get cast members. So if you like those interviews, just keep them coming, guys. True. And we'll hit you guys up online at Wingin Pod, and we'll talk to you next episode.
Adios.